Hello, Shalom Aleichem, and good afternoon to everyone. As we always meet face to face, so we're coming to a new beautiful Parsha of learning this week. And we try to focus on the Parsha, even though many times there's other beautiful stuff, but it's sometimes, especially this week, there's some beautiful lessons to share. So there is that famous story this week, as I'm sure everybody touched about it, because we're always good in learning the first part of the Parsha of the week. Usually we get lost in the middle, but in the beginning we're all good. And the first part of this week's Parsha is about the story that our great tzaddik, forefather Avraham, was acquiring a piece of land in order to bury his wife Sarah, that just passed away. This is what we're learning at the beginning of this week's Parsha. And it's a lot of lessons, and a lot of teachings, but it's one good thought that was given over once by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and it's a good idea. We can talk about that. And this is that famous question: why was he not satisfied when they told him, take the piece of land, use it, you are a good man, they told him, we respect you, and so on and so forth, just do it. And they really did not want his money. And as you learn the story, he did not agree. He refused the present. He refused getting it for free. And they made sure to pay. And the end of the story is that he didn't only pay, he paid very, very well for this piece of land. And then that piece of land finally became his own piece of land, Avram's piece of land. And as we know the story, he buried his wife, and the patriarchs and the matriarchs all buried there through that story. Why was it something special? Why was it so important for him to make sure to buy that piece of land? And there's many, many different explanations, many, many different thoughts, and many different chidushim about it. But just very interesting point. And we see from that story that Avraham Avinu, the reason he said he does not want it for free, because to him to buy that piece of land, this was his mitzvah, doing a mitzvah, burying a Jewish person. And as we know, burying a Jew is one of the mitzvah of the Torah, very important mitzvah. And therefore, when it comes to do an important mitzvah, when it comes to the mitzvah of burying his wife, that it's a part of the mitzvah of the Torah, he wants to make sure that he's doing the mitzvah complete. And to him, to do that mitzvah of burying his wife, and he's not going to pay for the land, to him he felt this will not be a complete mitzvah. A complete mitzvah is when you pay for it, when you work hard to make sure that it's yours. Rashi talks about it. Rashi brings another story with King David. Famous story with King David that we learn in Tanakh. About that he wanted to build an altar for God. And the place he wanted to build the altar belonged to some random non-Jew. And the same thing, he did not want to take for free. He says, I want to pay for it, full price. And only when he paid for it full price, this is when he built the altar. Two stories, the same stories, similarity. We have to do a mitzvah. Those great tzaddikim teach us, Avram and King David, to do a mitzvah, it's got to be not free. Free is not a mitzvah. As the Zohar says, in Egypt, as the Jews were saying, in Egypt they had everything for free. You know why in Egypt everything was free? It was not a mitzvah, it was the opposite of a mitzvah. That's why everything was free. But when it comes to do a mitzvah, it's got to cost. It's got to be hard. It's got to be expensive. Why? Especially when you go into the Kabbalistic idea. When you go into the idea of the mission of a Jew in the world, that we have to transform the world into Kedusha, into holiness. Harder it is, more you pay, more the physicality becomes spirituality. If you don't pay for the piece of land still stays a part of the domain of not Kedusha. In order to make it into Kedusha, to make it holy, it's got to be hard. You got to pay for it. Just wanted to share. So I remember myself, I saw once when I was young, I was by the Rebbe, and there was this Breslov fellow that came in there with all the little booklets to sell. as I'm sure everyone had this experience, they come and they're trying to sell the booklets of different issues and different stories. And that fellow came into 770, and he was trying to sell his booklets. And the Rebbe passed by at that time, and he went to the Rebbe and he showed him the booklets, and he asked him if he wants to buy one. And the Rebbe told him how much is one, and I think if I don't make a mistake, he told the Rebbe a quarter for the booklet. And the Rebbe looked at him and he said, a quarter for the booklet? Something in Torah we gotta pay. The Rebbe, I remember, took out $1 and he gave him $1, and he took the booklet and he said, I hope it's good enough. The Rebbe was not ready to buy it for a quarter. To buy a sefer, to buy a Jewish book, it's gotta cost you. And if it doesn't cost, then the Jewish book does not become yours. It's not something that you acquired. To acquire a Jewish book is a mitzvah. If you get it for free, and if you pay very little, the way the Rebbe simmed to him, it's not something that you're really doing a full mitzvah. A full mitzvah is you got to pay for it. As we all know that story that once, when many books of the library, but the Rebbe came back, a whole story about that, let's not get into it now. And the Rebbe then he asked to publish one book. It was a Kabbalistic book. And he published a book, it was printed, and at that day was given out to everyone. But the Rebbe said to everyone to pay $1 for it. Even though he wanted to give it to everyone. Pay $1 for it. You gotta pay. And if you pay, then the mitzvah becomes a real mitzvah. And this is what Avraham teaches us. Avraham teaches us that he wants to do the mitzvah, to get a plait for his wife. He doesn't want it for free. If it's for free, then the mitzvah is not complete. If he pays for it, that's when the mitzvah becomes a complete mitzvah. And this is the great lesson that we're learning from this next Parsha. When we do mitzvahs, we have to know it's not about having it easy. When we learn Torah, we have to know it's not about having it easy. Something it's hard for us, we don't do. We like to do the easy stuff in Torah and in mitzvah. Avraham teaches us on the contrary. We have to do when it's hard, and if it's hard and we do it, that's when the real mitzvah really becomes a complete, beautiful mitzvah. Let's take that lesson to us. When we have challenges, we have difficulties. We see sometimes we have a mitzvah to help another Jew or to help the world, etc. But sometimes you feel it's too hard. It's not something I should do. It's so much easier stuff for me to do. Teaches us Avraham in this week's Parsha, on the contrary. When you know it's hard for you, when you know it's difficult for you, when you know it costs money, this is the mitzvah is really complete. Let's be strong, or let's be able to do it, and let's do the real mitzvah. As we know, our mission is to bring Mashiach. That's the hardest mission, but we're going to accomplish it. If it's hard, that's the real mitzvah. We're going to make it. Good Shabbos to all of you.